Hello, my friends and fellow beaders and crafters, and welcome back into the mat. Welcome to BEADMAS Day 5. Day 5. Just 5 fingers, Jen, not 10. 5. Welcome, my friends. If you are just joining or stumbling across, we are in to our 12 days of beadmas gifting and crafting series here on my channel. That's what we're doing here for these 12 days, and we are in day 5. What a fun time this is. I hope you guys are enjoying, and I'm inspiring you and giving you some ideas of fun things that you can do. Guess what we're doing today? Something that I watched on some of the runway, from the fashion shows for the big fashion houses on the runway videos I was watching many months back. And you know what I noticed is so many of the models coming down the runway were wearing chain belts. And I thought, what a great thing to add to the 12 days of beadmas gifting and crafting, because it's super, super easy. Any skill level can do this. All we need are just a few simple tools and some chain. And then, of course, we got to put some sparkle in there on this channel. So we need a little bling on the beads, but we could use anything. I'm going to give you guys a couple of ideas. So I thought this would be so, so fun. My friends, not everybody wears a belt, but some people do. And let me tell you, I'm known to wear a belt. Now, if I have a jumpsuit on, or even a pair of jeans, that you can, put through the loops on your jeans. But if you have like a fun long dress or a sweater dress or a jumpsuit, or even just a long tunic sweater, I wear long tunics a lot too, by the way, a long tunic top for any time of year. A chain belt is a beautiful way to accessorize your look. And I thought that I would share a simple, fun way to make a chain belt with you all today. So that's what we're going to jump into. So, guys, you can literally use any chain. Literally. It does not matter the millimeter. It does not matter if it's curb chain, Rolo chain, paper clip chain, snake chain. It does not matter one bit. Figueroa chain is what I'm going to use today. Any chain, any millimeter will work. And whether the chain is soldered or not also does not matter. Let me pull in my chain. So it does not matter the kind of chain. And also measurements. So we're not going to do measurements, right? Because everybody's waist size is different, right? So I'll give you some ideas, though, of where we're going and what we're going to do. So I've got my chain here. The tools, friends, that I'm going to use today will be some round nose pliers, okay? So we use our round nose. We're going to use, of course, some good flush cutters. I am also going to be using probably my chain nose, a couple pair of chain nose to open and close my links, okay? And the other supplies besides the chain is we'll use some craft wire, okay? You can also use some thick gauge head pens, but this is really your choice. Color also is your choice. So this is an antique copper color. This is a 20 gauge. Okay, but I also used an 18 gauge, and let me show you. On one of the components that we're gonna add to my belt, I just did a wire wrap loop on the top and the bottom here for a belt, right? You could also do, by the way, like some rosary link chain. You could do something like that too. Just make a bunch of simple loops, make some chain out of it, and hang it on the end. That would be really pretty too, with some small beads or small crystals, pearls, you name it. Okay, so you have just one piece of chain going around your belt, right? Or you can do a double. Okay, I'll do a double on this one, and then I'll actually do a single with a different type of chain, give you a few ideas here. Visual, we need a visual. Okay, let me get you back just, okay? So starting here is where I would start my measurement, right? And then I'm doubling it up, and then maybe I'm gonna go to, 28, 30, 36, 38, 40 inches. It does not matter, okay? And then what I would decide is how long do I want my chain to dangle in the front? Okay, so I'm thinking that like maybe about right, let me get this a little bit snugger. So maybe about right there. And then maybe we'll do another dangle that's up a little more. So we'll get rid of that sun link. And again, I could be opening and closing these links, but I'm just gonna trim them for the expeditiousness of it. So that's what I have, right? So essentially now, I have this part is going to go completely around my waist, and now I have this end here, okay, and I'll just be trying to be aware of where is the last link. So we'll make sure that that is our middle link right there, that mother link, okay, right here, this one, okay, and then just gonna kind of hold that, and once again, just doubling up my chain, and I'm just gonna come around making sure it's all even here, okay, and guys, this is so simple and so easy. It's actually taking me longer to explain it. Okay, I pause. Friends, I love paying it forward, right? Let me tell you what just happened like a couple months ago. I literally made one of these after I put on my long tunic, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm gonna make a chain belt for this. And I grabbed a piece of chain and some beautiful beads and actually made myself this exact style of a chain belt. I am not joking you, in probably 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It took me no time at all. So I'm telling you, these are so fun. So fun. So let's continue on. So let's assume that this is our link that we need to hook on. Okay, so the one thing I am gonna want to do here is I'm gonna want to put my, I'm sorry guys, I forgot a supply. Here's the other thing you need. But guys, you can use any kind of hook. Now this is a 360 swivel. You see me using these a lot for our bag charms and key dangles and all that kind of fun stuff. Bag straps, phone straps, all that kind of stuff. So these 360s are great, and you can also get into using some decorative ones, right? I've got some that are like in a heart shape, but this is like the kind of clasp that I used before, but you could even use like a small lobster. Why not? Why couldn't you use a small lobster? Of course you can. Use any kind of a lobster or a swivel that has the lobster trigger. That was a tongue twister on it. And you can find some really beautiful ones that are embellished and have some nice shapes and what have you. So that I would be attaching right here. Okay, now we can do two things. Again, we can add a jump ring or we can open the link. So on this one, I'm gonna open the link now. And that's just gonna help that to be really nice and secure. You know what we could also do? We could wire wrap it to this. Of course we could. We can do lots of different things here, guys. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a couple pair of chain nails. Let me pull you in a little bit here. Okay, I'm gonna grab a couple pair of chain nails. I'm on this link over here, which would be on one side. That is where I'm gonna add my clasp, right? So that's there. And again, any clasp I wanna use is perfectly fine. And then I'm just gonna close back up, make sure that's nice and closed, that link of my Figueroa chain, okay? And so now I know that's where my basic starting point is, or my middle point, or basically my guide. My guide, guys. Okay, so then I would go around my waist, right? And then I measure out as much chain as I need. And then I see where I'm going to be clasping this for my chain to dangle down. And so maybe it's going to be right here, right? And then I have, let me show you, I have then this much chain dangling here, and this much chain is here, okay? And again, if I don't like the way that depth is, I can always cut chain off, right? So I always wait to do any more trimming until the end. So if that's the case, and then we think right there is going to be our part that we're going to add our clasp to, there's several things we can do here. First of all, we could be done and just have a cool chain belt. So what we would do is we just simply can clasp it, guys, right? So, oops. So we just can clasp this right on our chain, okay? And now this is our belt. And that's how it will hang, right? But that's not good enough for me. I have to embellish. So here's what I'm gonna do. Let me unhook that. I did mention that, yeah. So if we want to use some jump rings, I grabbed some 10 millimeters, okay? So and you can use any size, but I like, because it's a belt, I kind of going with my bigger findings on this one. So I'm going to open up this jump ring, okay? And I am going to put it right here through the loops of both of those sections of chain, okay? And let me just get them to go straight. Okay, so there and there, and even if it gets twisted, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna show you another really fun, cool thing. Or not show you, I'm gonna tell you in a second here. Okay, so that's nice and closed, and so now here's another styling option when you're putting these together. So look, we can now take, and I can clasp this right here on this jump ring, right? And this is all around my body. This part of the chain is all around my body. I can clasp it right there on that jump ring. So you can be done here too. But like I just said a minute ago, is that good enough for me? We need to embellish. So I already did my wire wrapped loop on both sides of this beautiful component with these beads, okay? So now I'm going to open my link, or again, I can add a jump ring here if I want to. Either one. If you're using unsoldered chain like I am, might as well just open the links of your chain. It just eliminates findings and extras. Okay, so I'm just going to add that wire wrap component directly there to that link. I am now going to close that link of that Figueroa chain up and make sure that's nice and closed. It doesn't snag my clothing. And there we go. And now I am going to add this bead that dangles down here, and I'm going to use this 22 gauge. So here's what I'll do. I will use my round nose pliers. Okay, I'm going to go right to the end. I'm going to make my own head pen, and what I'm going to do, you could also, I just thought of an idea. You know what else, guys? You could do the spirals that if you use like a 16 or an 18 gauge wire, you have a big whole bead like this that the wire will fit through, that would be really pretty. Ooh, that would be pretty. Ooh, I think I'm gonna do that. You know what, let's pretend this is 16 or 18 gauge. Guys, I almost want to do them both. So I was first gonna make my own headband. Let me just do them it both ways because that just sounds so pretty. I want you guys to get a visual. Okay, so I'm just gonna basically coil this around and lay my wraps one on top of the other 3 times until where I started that comes up to the top. So there's now 3 rotations. You could do 2 rotations. It's not really that important. 2 or 3. It's just a little head pen. Okay? So that's what I have. Now I'm going to take and have my head pen like this, right? Where I cut is on the top, where I stop spiraling is on the bottom right here, okay? I'm gonna pull this up and over and push it through my spiral, okay? And you can grab your nylon jaw, but for the sake of eliminating supplies, let's see if I can do it without, and we'll just help that wire through. Otherwise, we use our nylon jaw. You guys have seen me, if you've been around the channel any kind of time, do these before. So there's many ways we can make a little head pen. Okay, and so I'll just keep helping that wire along, pushing it through that little coil I just made. And to get that kind of as tight as I can get it without distorting it. Okay, and we'll straighten that back out. And so that's now what I have. There's my little head pen. Okay, and now I can feed my bead on. Now this may be too small, but I wanted to show you because I have a larger whole bead, right? So I could just continue to use this bead, put a smaller bead right there so it won't come all the way off, or make a bigger head pen. I use the very smallest part of my tip of my pliers. So a couple options there for you, okay? So another option is let's grab, I wanted to show you both ways. But now this is so ridiculous that I even just thought of this idea. I gotta grab some 18 gauge and do like a spiral situation. because that would be so beautiful. We're just gonna make really, really sure here, friends, that, and we don't even need that much, that we are really tucking in any sharp edges. But that would be so beautiful, like just a beautiful embellishment on the bottom of your wire. So decorative for something like a belt accessory. So there's our 18 gauge. So here's what I'll do is I am gonna go way down to the bottom largest part of the cone of my pliers. You can also use your bail making. I'm using my round nose right now, so we'll just go there, and I'm just gonna go all the way around with the wire. Okay, let me get that off of there now. And I am going to make sure that is flush cut, which it is, and it's really flat on the inside. And I wouldn't be able to feel if I went like this, any sharp edges. And because this is 18 gauge, we can pretty much do it with our hands just to kind of form and shape the wire. And again, it does not have to be perfect. But boy, actually it would probably be even better if this was like 16 gauge. That might be even prettier. You know, so look at how pretty and decorative, you know, that is at the bottom of a belt. So I can tweak this any way that I want. Just have fun with it here, guys. Let's see, let's get that in a little better. Does not have to be perfectly symmetrical at all. Does not have, in this case, does not have to be a perfect spiral, not at all. And what would be even, oh my gosh, I'm just thinking of ideas, guys. You know, it'd be also cool is if we went like this and zigzagged the wire. It's a whole nother look that would be really cool, like a cool modern twist on anything. So let me just continue to kind of go around. And now I am going to grab my pliers and let me kick this wire up, kind of straighten it up there on that wire. And again, it's just, that's how it looks, but look how fun that is. Okay, and then I can feed this bead on, okay? And because that's a large hole bead, I probably want to put a little something smaller, right, on there so it doesn't, you know, look like that, right? So it doesn't want to go like that. But that's a cool look too, though, right? Because it's like dimensional, right? So, I mean, it's just truly no rules, friends. Truly no rules. One. And so I grabbed a couple of 8mm rondelles. We will add that to that larger hole. I just cannot even tell you. My ideas are just, they're just flooding out of my brain. Look, I grabbed some spacers. These are in a gunmetal. I got these to show you some contrast. Here's something else. Look, these are 3mm spacers that we can feed down the wire, and look at them just going down. In there, like that, in the spiral. You could do that with as many beads as you wanted. I grabbed 5, so we'll put 5 of these spacers. These are fitting down my 18 gauge just fine. So check that out. How cool is this for an embellishment? And then I am going to feed on that 8mm rondelle, my large hole, and another 8mm. This is now what I have, okay? And then we'll do a wire wrap loop to attach it to the previous one for security. Okay, so I'll put right bend in there. And we'll go with our round nose, and do a wire wrap loop here. And before we close that, we'll go ahead and slide that on the previous component, pop that in the loop. Let me get coordinated, for heaven's sakes. There we go. And now we will close the loop and wrap that up. And just enough to fill that space right there. So probably just 2 wraps will do it. That's perfect. And then we'll trim. And then I'm going to grab my other chain and show you another option, just some chain and maybe a beautiful embellished flower like the other one I just showed you I have. So pretty, but let's finish this one first. Okie dokie, and so that's what we have. And that's what the bottom, so imagine all of this, let me pull you all the way up. Imagine all of this, right, is around the waist, and then at the front, we have the clasp with the jump ring, and then right here, you know, we have this beautiful embellishment, and then we have another piece of chain hanging here. And now if we wanted to embellish this as well, we certainly could do so. But how beautiful of a belt is that? And, you know, again, any colors, look at how fun these are. These spacers, look at them. They're going all over the place. But they're not going to fall off because there's not enough room there. Haha. But that is just too much fun, right? So there is the first idea I have for a chain belt. Let me put this to the side and get the supplies for the other option I wanted to show you. Okay, friends, so I grabbed a couple of more supplies, okay, to give you an idea of just to do something really simple on some thicker, chunky chain. Now, this is coated aluminum, very similar to that CBB plastic. It's just about tarnish resistant for a very long time because it's a really good coating if you get some kind of chain like this. But notice, you know, it's super duper lightweight because it's coated aluminum. And look at how cool and these links also, they open. You can open them just a little bit, okay? So this is another idea for doing a simple chain belt, okay? So you would just, again, you know, let's get to the end and just figure out, okay, I just want to have, you know, a super duper, you know, long piece hanging, and then I need however many inches that goes around my body, okay? So we just, you know, we'll just assume it's that much, okay? So I, in this case, could use just, again, about anything I wanted. With an open link type of chain that is not soldered, you can absolutely open the links, and if it's soldered, you can use jump rings, okay? Now, in this case, again, this is not soldered, so I can do one of two things with my jump rings. I could use something like this, which is a 12 millimeter closed jump ring, or I could use just a standard jump ring in any size I want, okay, any size, that opens and closes if it was soldered, okay? Either way, it's tomato, tomato. But let's just assume that I want this to be right there. So the first thing I would do is, like all of this, I want to dangle in the front. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the link of this chain, and I am going to add this closed jump ring. Oh, you know another idea, friends? You know that chain? If you've been around my channel any kind of time, and you know those cool CBB links, those twisted oval links that came in my Autumn's Embrace bag, I still have some of those left in my store. You could put links, those links together. Guys, this is turning out to be the video of ideas. They're just flowing out of me, honestly. And I do have some of these in my store too. So here's a cool silver one. Here's a bigger one. Okay, it's just whatever you want. Here's a cool decorative one like I was mentioning. It's a heart, right? And same thing, you can add a jump ring to the chain if it's soldered, or we can open and close the links if it's not soldered. And in my case, I'm gonna open and close the links. So once again, I'm gonna open, add my clasp right to that. Now these bigger lobster type clasps that we use for these chain belts, they all will have a decent loop. If you want to use a smaller one, then just grab a jump ring and add it on there. So we already have that, and so look how easy. I mean, this is going to take like 2 minutes, right? Or you don't even need that at all, because again, the links are so large on this one, you most certainly can link it directly to the chain itself. You sure could. Absolutely. Why not? Of course you can, right? So you could do it either way. And then if I want to add, let me put that there. If I want to add this, something really fun like this, let me get these out of the way. This pretty little flower, right? So I would need a jump ring. So in this case, I'll add this jump ring here. Make sure my links are good and closed on this type of a chain. And we would want to add this to the link. And then add our little charm and then close up that jump ring. Look how fun this one is. And again, I could have linked that anywhere to have this dangling. You don't even need to have anything on it at all. You could just use some really beautiful decorative chain for that effect as well. So we just assume that all that is around the waist. And then, of course, the beautiful double copper. Another idea I was mentioning to you a few minutes back, I wanted to show you about like styling. Take your jump ring and put it on different links of the chain that's going to dangle here, right? That way, when you're styling it around, like say this is the front of your waist, right? You could have the chain like this, right? So there's like, it'll be like draping. It'll be draping on the body, right? So how do you accomplish that? You simply link that jump ring on a different length. So pull one length a little bit longer and one is a little shorter on the two different links here. And that way when you wrap it around, it'll have a drape effect. So I hope you guys enjoyed day 5 of BEADMAS, and I sure did. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 a.m. for day 6. Be well, my friends.